What's up YouTube and welcome to another video on the Ashen Chevalier. Today we're going to continue going through the Trials of Cold Steel summary with chapter 5 titled Signs and Omens. If you haven't watched the previous videos, as usual check out the card or description for a playlist. Of course this will contain heavy spoilers for Cold Steel and parts of the crossbow arc, so if you're ready for this, let's dive into the pits of Gehenna. Chapter 5 begins in August, where the heat beats down upon Trista. During the holidays, the nobility is permitted to return home to visit their families and stay in tune with their family holdings. However, Class 7's nobles elected to attend school as normal. Class 7 discusses the upcoming Zemuria trade conference later this month in Crossbow. It turns out that it was Mayor Dieter Croix, the CEO of the International Bank of Crossbow, who proposed the idea initially. Emma highlights that Prince Oliver and Imperial Chancellor Osborne will be in attendance to represent Erebonia as mentioned in the previous chapter, and thus the topic moves on to the Chancellor. Fee quite rightly points out that he appeared to be a big scary monster, and Laura comments that he served in the Imperial Army before becoming a politician. 11 years ago, His Majesty Emperor Eugen Brice Anna III appointed him as Chancellor, and so here we are. It's said that approximately 70% of the army is under his jurisdiction. The Chancellor's most renowned feats, however, include establishing the national railway network centered on the capital, as well as the annexation of smaller countries and independent states across Erebonia. He was also the one that ordered the construction of the railway military guns that are pointed on Crossbow, almost leading to a full-scale war with the Calvardian Republic. Elliot highlights that it's clear that the Chancellor has been a particularly popular figure in the capital, and that's further reinforced by the presence of the Imperial Liberation Front, as he seems to be their target. The hammer of judgment that shall topple the dictator. It must be the Chancellor they are referring to, right? The group moves on to wonder where Instructor Sara is, as homeroom should have started about 10 minutes ago. They wonder if she is sleeping off yet another hangover, at which point she appears and states that she did no such thing. Today. Sara explains that she has good reason for being late today and proceeds to introduce two transfer students, Crow Umbras and Milliam Orion. Turns out Crow needs to make up some extra credits because he slacked off so much in his first year, and Milliam, well, we'll find out later. The class move on to their history lessons where Crow is sleeping, so much for those extra credits. The topic is Leanne Sandlot, the Lance Maiden, the companion of Emperor Drycalls and the leader of the Eisenritter or the Iron Knights, who are mainly based out of Lohengrin Castle, not far from Legram, Laura's home. In fact, the S in Laura's full name stands for Sandlot. The next day, Rean takes care of his student council tasks, including test driving Angelica's motorcycle again, this time with a sidecar in it and Toa as a passenger. Instructor Sara gets word of Neidhart and the special swimming lessons he gave the boys the last time and demands that Rean do the same for the girls of the class too, and so off they go. Once he was done here, it was time to investigate the old schoolhouse. This time I took Rean, Crow, Milliam, who are forced upon you, and Gauis, Emma, and Jusis. They proceed to the end of floor 5, and as expected, another powerful monster appears and is defeated. Nothing else eventful happens, so they leave the old schoolhouse to make their report. Whilst the rest of the group begins walking away, Milliam stops for a moment and comments that this is a place Grams, Chancellor Osborne, was talking about, and that it does seem like something else is in there, but it's not something that Force will resolve. As Rean returns to the dormitory, Sharon mentions that she was just about to step out to buy some ingredients for dinner, and so Rean offers to go instead. As he leaves once again, he bumps into Misty from the radio show Our Bedtime. After a short little chat, Misty catches Rean staring and calls him out on this. He says he doesn't feel like this is the first time that they've met before, that they have met once before, in a hotel, in Heimdall. It turns out that Rean was right on the mark, and Misty is actually the Azure diva, Vita Clotilde. Of course she asks that Rean keeps this a secret and gives her regards to those two also. Now, the first time you played this game, you would immediately think Machias and Elliot, but then why just those two and not Laura and Fee as well? The 5 of them were together in Heimdall after all. So why should she only reference 2 people? Anywho, as Vita walks away, Rean notices a smell of lavender and comments on how it really suits her. When Rean returns to the dormitory, he bumps into Emma, who wonders how the smell of lavender got onto him, at which point he assures her that it was nothing scandalous. Of course, Emma does state that he seems awfully defensive considering he has nothing to hide. She proceeds to tease him about what would happen if the other girls caught wind of this. Rean once again establishes that nothing happened and that Emma just likes raking him over the coals, to which Emma lets out the most adorable giggle ever. Sharon becomes his saving grace as she is looking to start cooking and notices that Rean is back with the ingredients. As Rean disappears with Sharon, Emma once again wonders about this lavender but concludes that it's impossible to be the person that she is thinking of. Later that evening, we find the Imperial Liberation Front meeting inside Lunaria Nature Park. Comrades G, S, V, and C are all in attendance, and it seems that their next objective will be something in crossbow, and that Gideon will be playing an important, potentially sacrificial role there. Back in Trista, it's time for the practical exam, and so Rean, Milliam, and Crow are pit against the rest of the boys, followed by the rest of the girls. Remember, Rean is a test subject and would therefore always get the short end of the stick. Instructor Neidhart approaches the group, and it turns out that this field study will be a little different than usual. After completing their field study in their designated location, they will all meet at Garrelia Fortress, which is a massive military base situated at the southeast of Erebonia and faces the Republic. The groups will still be split in two, where Group A is Rean, Laura, Emma, Jusis, Gauis, and Milliam, who are after Legram, and Group B are Alisa, Fee, Machias, Elliot, and Crow, who are after Jurai's Special Economic Zone. Honourable mention to Milliam for her amazing waking up tactics. Poor Rean, although it seems as though Jusis had a similarly rude awakening. Following Class VII's respective departures, Lecter and Sara meet up inside the train station, where the former passes on some information about the Imperial Liberation Front. He also notes that Claire believes the main target to be Crossbell City, but there is also a chance that something will go down in the Empire at the same time. Upon arrival at Legram, Laura introduces their butler, Klaus, who leads them to their mansion and shows them to their rooms, where they look over the balcony and notice Lohengrin Castle through the dense fog. After a brief pause, they proceed to the Bracer Guild, which still seems to operate in this small town, where they meet Toval, the bracer and associate of Sara's. Note that this is the same bracer that Group A met back in Bereahard in Chapter 2, who gave them the tip-off about the underground waterway to save Machias. Class 7 takes care of some tasks that are assigned to them by Toval, one of which includes training with the Arseid school students. Milliam and Laura are on the sidelines for this battle, which doesn't go too well as Milliam wants to fight too. As a result, Butler Klaus offers to be the opponent, and so another battle ensues. The group is able to overcome the acting master of the Arseid school, and he makes a curious comment about Rean's combat that he appears to be holding something back. As they arrive at the guild to report the day's activities, Laura's father, the Viscount Victor S. Arseid, the Radiant Blade Master, has just arrived to pay them a visit as well and embraces Laura with a warm hug. They all venture back to the Arseid mansion for dinner, where the Viscount speaks with each of the class members. When it comes to Rean, he too mentions that he senses hesitation in his swordsmanship. The Viscount explains that the sword hermit Yun Ka-Fai, i.e. the founder of the 8 Leads 1 Blade school and Rean's mentor, is an acquaintance of his, and therefore he understands the fundamentals very well. He goes on to say that it is influenced by many Eastern schools of swordsmanship, and those whom are able to master it are dubbed Divine Blade. Of course, if you have played the previous games, you would also know that Cassius Bright and Arius MacLean are both known as Divine Blades, and although there are other practitioners like Rean, none have achieved the level of Master at this stage. Furthermore, he highlights that there is a certain fear within Rean, something that terrifies him to the extent that even its mere shadow would pin him in his place. Rean is surprised and doesn't have much to say, but he makes up his mind and challenges the Radiant Blade Master to a duel. Rean isn't even able to damage him and is soon pushed to the ground. However, the Viscount demands that he returns to his feet further goading him by threatening to force his hand if he doesn't show his full strength. And just as he lunges at Rean, he misses, but only to block Rean's side attack. Rean demonstrates immense strength and speed, and the rest of the group are stunned by his appearance, which is the same as from the old schoolhouse, i.e. the white hair and red eyes. The Viscount pushes him further. As long as you continue to cower in the face of it, you'll remain forever at a standstill. And with a growl, the battle begins again. This time, Rean is able to damage his opponent, despite the Viscount still being considerably more powerful than him, eventually subduing Rean once again. Rean finally understands that he must grapple with the fear of the power that he possesses in order to make it his own. However, at this point, he is only going to be more uncertain. The Viscount ends the scene with a fantastic line. Uncertainty weighs on the hearts of all people, but it's far preferable to standing still. And I think that's a really important lesson to everyone. Don't be content with standing still. Surge forward in everything that you do and never stop looking toward the future, while still building your present to be better and better. After all, there is nothing like a solid foundation. Am I right? Am I? The next day, one of their field exercises involves them fighting a mechanical monster. Once it has been destroyed, they make their way back to Legram, and as they enter, they notice Lemaire's provincial army seems to have made a stop. They bump into Toval as well and tell him about the monster that they had fought, which prompts him to go check out the remains, meanwhile leaving Class VII to find out what is going on at the Arseid mansion. As the group enters, they see an extravagantly dressed man with two guards speaking with the Viscount and butler Klaus. The man appears to be requesting the Viscount's attendance at some sort of gathering, assuring him that his presence would add a certain level of prestige to it. After a few questionable statements, the man makes his way down the stairs and stops to greet Laura and Jusis. Their responses are pretty stiff, and Rean clarifies that this man is Duke Cayenne, head of the foremost of the four great houses and ruler of the port city of Ordis. This is likely the reason why. With that, the three men make their exit, and the Viscount confirms what this all means. It appears that the noble faction has begun to act in secret and are now making themselves more prominently known. Despite the Viscount's neutral standpoint, choosing not to side with either the reformist faction nor the noble faction, Duke Cayenne's visit was a last-ditch attempt to pull him to their side. It appears that there has been some contention on whether Duke Cayenne or Jusis' father, Duke Albarea, should lead the noble faction. Either way, the result would understandably be the same. The Viscount decides that he will make contact with all other nobles that have remained neutral in an effort to gather a third faction of sorts together. Toval enters the room at this point and highlights that Duke Cayenne was escorted here by none other than Rufus Albarea. He also tells the Viscount that there was a mechanical monster that appeared on the highway, to which he responds with, "I believe this is the first time one has appeared since the counter-offensive Sir Cassius launched 2 years ago." Once again, if you have knowledge of the previous titles, you'll know who this is. If not, not to worry, because you'll get there eventually, won't you? Shortly after, Toval and the Viscount both leave Legram. As for the other half of the day, they receive a single request from Toval and take care of it in his absence before returning to the guild branch and closing office for the day. Whilst they are gathered, a girl rushes in a hurry and explains that 2 children took a boat to Lohengrin Castle and have not yet returned. The class gets their gear together and travels across to the castle. As they are venturing across, we hear a bell sound and the castle gets a magnificent glow around it. Once they reach the doors of the castle, they make their way in. The door closes behind them and Emma states that there is a barrier of sorts on the door. The group questions how she would know something like this, and Emma shrugs it off as a sixth sense. Jusis quickly points out that this isn't the first time she has responded in such a way to unusual phenomena, and Gauis affirms that she must be a sister of the church or something, and he has heard that followers have a strange power too. Emma first responds with, kind of the opposite, but quickly changes that to, you got me, I've always been a big supporter of the church. Laura very simply asks just who Emma is, but their attention is diverted by a ring of the castle bell and the appearance of some monsters. Once they have been dispatched, the group relies on this sixth sense of Emma's to get them through the castle safely. Let's take a breather here just to cover off some related stuff. If you have played the previous games, you'll know about the worzel. This is more than likely what Gauis was referring to when he said followers of the church with strange powers. Now, keep in mind that I was not privy to any knowledge outside of this game when I first played it, but thought it was worth mentioning the way my brain worked the first time too. What's interesting here is that Emma said she is more the opposite, and if I remember correctly, Emma's identity is not clarified fully until much later in the game, although you could quite easily hazard a guess and not be too far off. Just remember the relationship she has with Celine and the fact that Celine is a talking cat, given the scene we saw earlier between these two. Anyway, back on topic. The group traverse through to the top of the castle thanks to Emma's mysterious knowledge and meet the two boys along the way. At the top, however, they are confronted by an orb of energy that Emma led them toward. Milliam asks Erigeddon to destroy the orb, but they are pushed back by the force and the orb remains undamaged. At that point though, the orb emits a terrible energy which manifests as a Nosferatu, to even Emma's amazement. They do manage to subdue it, returning the orb to how it was previously, even just for a moment, but it doesn't take long for a strange energy to surround the members of Class 7, rendering them useless, bar Gaius, who fortunately was able to jump back just in time. Rean tries to fight it and is about to activate his hidden power, but Emma stops him, telling him that he could be drawn into it if he isn't able to control it. At that moment, a lance surrounded by a yellow glow flies from the balcony through the orb, destroying the orb and freeing the rest of Class 7. The scene pans to the balcony and we see a woman in armor walking out through the doorway with what seemed like golden hair, albeit they show us a shadow outline, but it's pretty clear. Rean mentions that he is amazed that someone could throw such a massive lance through the air with that much force. Laura is shocked by the mention of a lance, and Rean reaffirms that it was a woman with golden hair shrouded by a strange light. Laura confirms that it must have been the Lance Maiden, which wouldn't make any sense given that she died many years ago. Once again, if you have played the previous games, this would make more sense, but at this point we'll leave it as it is and proceed onward. The next morning, they departed Legram as per their schedule and make their way to Celtic Station to meet with Group B. There, they saw a special train taking Chancellor Osborne and Prince Oliver to the trade conference in Crossbell. To Rean's surprise, he saw it pass in slow motion, as he could clearly see Osborne, Oliver and Toa on board. The two groups reunited soon after, finally making their way towards Garrelia Fortress. The fortress stood as vast as a wall between Erebonia and its longtime enemy, the Calvert Republic, while also possessing two huge railway guns capable of targeting Crossbell City, which stands between the two. Upon arriving, they were shown inside by Major Neidhart, their military science instructor at the academy, and they soon met Elliot's father, Lieutenant General Craig, and witnessed a military exercise. They were stunned by the overwhelming power the weaponry on display possessed. In the end, each of them left with a sinking feeling that all their combat skills they were learning at Thor's were for naught. Soon after, they were informed that Crossbell was being attacked by the terrorists, specifically the site of the trade conference, and no sooner than had they heard this, did the fortress itself come under attack by out-of-control unmanned tanks. This was followed by the arrival of two black airships belonging to the Imperial Liberation Front. Amid the chaos, Class 7 resolved to aid Sara and Neidhart in subduing the terrorists. They learned their aim was to activate the two railway guns and use them to attack the trade conference, and that by doing so they intended to bury Chancellor Osborne with little concern over how many innocents died with him. After a fierce battle, Group A defeated S, who had revealed herself as Scarlet, one of the terrorist executives. Meanwhile, Group B defeated V, revealed to be Vulcan, and together they were able to prevent the worst case scenario. Regrettably, both terrorist executives were allowed to escape by the sudden arrival of an airship, and the voice of their leader C delivered a chilling warning of their next attack before the airship took to the skies and disappeared into the distance. The hammer of judgment shall fall once again. I'm ready. Are you? The remaining terrorists were about to be captured and forced to talk, however they appeared to have taken neurotoxin capsules, i.e. poison, causing cough up of blood and them to die. And with that, chapter 5 comes to a close. Whew, Things are moving real swiftly along now, aren't they? I'm stoked to get the next one out as fast as I can. Apologies that this one was a little late. I'll do my best not to keep you waiting too long for chapter 6. Your support is greatly appreciated, so please like, share with a fellow fan, comment to tell me what you guys think, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so that you don't miss out on the next one. And remember to keep moving forward relentlessly. Peace.